and center. Okay, I'm going to go side to side. And center. Okay, switch. Okay, center, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Silk grilling. Switch. And center. Open and close. Switch. Okay, Sada. Preparation, circular movements. And Sada. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. Okay, lower, palms down. Lift your spine. Extend. Okay, hands up. Pull in, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Okay, switch. Okay, center, cloud hands. Okay, palms down. Lift up, carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, infinity sign. Form the fists. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Okay, thumbs up, alternate the shoulders. Switch. Okay. Extend, draw the bow. Okay, and to the back. Okay, raise the hand. and down. Deep breathing, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, we'll go to the form, short form. Ready, feet parallel. Okay, deep breathing. Okay, good. So let's stretch the wrist a little bit. Okay, so you're pulling it toward you like this way. Okay, this way. Yeah, so you're pulling your fingertips or fingers toward your forearm. Yeah, back. And then you pull it forward like this, so like when you hook wrists, yeah. And straighten the elbow. So you do the other side. Then you do the other side. Okay. So that's this side. So these are areas that, we can kind of stretch out. And then in motion, we do this. Elbows in. Okay, shake it out. So, a lot of forearms get pretty tight because we use our hands and we don't control the wrists as much. But in Tai Chi, we actually push. We have the hook wrists. We turn our wrists. So those are more of a coordination motor skill. But the stretching, it inhibits some of the actions because they're tight. So by getting some of the tension out of the forearm, it allows your hands to move a little bit more freely because the forearms get very stiff, and forearms tend to be very strong typically because you're using them a lot. So that's the same that happens below, right? If your feet, your ankles get tight like this, then your calves, you stretch your calves like it. So when we bend our knees and we turn, that's actually releasing the tension in the ankles. But it's supporting weight, so it really, when you release, there's a limit also to how far it goes down. Like you wouldn't be able to touch your shin to your toe, although when infants, when babies are born, I mentioned before that the toes are kind of like up against there because there's no resistance. The ligaments and tendons are so supple. But as you get older, soon as you start walking, everything starts to tighten up, starts to stiffen to produce the strength required to stand, to keep you in a certain position. So all of these ligaments and tendons, the connective tissue, gets to be moved if you move and stretch and you do all of this. So while, most people don't like to stretch, it's mainly, why don't people like to stretch? Because it's a little bit painful. And the tighter you are, the more painful it is because it doesn't want to release. So, yeah, because there's not a lot of load on it. You can control that if you just go down into a split or something like that, you have no control of that because of the body weight. So the best thing to do when you stretch one side at a time. You know, like use the bars or use an apparatus or do one leg at a time. Because then you can control the stretch. If you do like when we spread the legs like that, that's actually pretty strenuous. And the tendency is to not be able to control it, and you can actually hurt yourself. So at home, in front of like a chair or a sofa or one of the seats that you have, if you hold on to it, you can actually do your stretches better. Or the back of a couch, or you know, the upright part, put your leg on top of that and stretch. If you have stairs at home, you know, depending how tall you are, you could be on the second or third step, and on, you know, standing on the bottom. Don't do it from the top. You could fall. So from the bottom, you go like that and find a 90-degree position, and you can do your stretch that way. And actually, so you don't need, you know, special equipment. You don't. It's all there. You got a counter. You got a back of a sofa. You got your stairs, and you can do all of your things on that. So you know you can. But you have to do it regularly, because if you don't stretch regularly, it'll just tighten up. And the more you stretch, the more open your, let's say, your sort of static state, your normal state would be more open. You know. So if you get out of bed and you're like this, then eventually it'll be like this. And then when you get out of bed, you can actually go down further, and you're not actually, you know. But anyways, all right, deep breathing, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So let's do the hand movements and the kicks. I think that's a little bit complicated for some people. And so this is just, if we're in single whip position, we turn, we find this position. This is your sort of palm strikes face position, one on each side. So we go from here to here as the first movement. You find those two positions. Now this is reverse the ball. One time I had a question, you know, is reverse the ball like this or is it like this? Well, reverse the ball is just turning it over. So that's, if you look at this as a globe, right, you can actually reverse the ball in the different spatial angles depending on which plane of movement you are. So in other words, if I reverse the ball when my hands are like this, that's in this plane, right? So you can draw a circle. If I were to draw a circle like this, then we have a plane of movement like this. So my hands are like this, then I'd have to turn in this direction and turn in this direction. So palm strikes face and reversing the ball in the forward direction becomes that kind of a reversing the ball. Now it might not be 100% 90 to that. It might be because you're generating it like that. So it might have a slight angular position where this is 90 degrees to that, and this might be partial to that. And it's partial to that because if I start here and then I turn my torso, then my circle actually starts to come across this way until I get to this position. So the reversing of the ball doesn't really necessarily create the same, it creates more of a curved motion till you get to the front. See what I mean? So when if you add your torso component, then you just have to reset to the frontal position. So that's what reversing the ball is. And when we do the kicks, it looks a little different from this, like when we're doing this. But essentially it's the same, but you have to manipulate your hands a little bit different. So it's like, you know, if you were rolling something forward, say you were rolling a cylinder forward, your hands would do this, pulling it around and rolling it this way. If you were turning a steering wheel, or, you know, you would turn it like this. If you're rolling it this way, then you would roll like you're rolling like a a carpet or a cylinder or a giant snowball. A giant snowball, you would be pushing it like this, and then if you were pulling it back, it would be like that. So it's really a direction of movement.
So before the kicks, are we doing this?
Yeah, if you're turning your waist, that is what would end up happening. So if we're here and we turn, then you would fold, and then now we're turning this way. Now this is just this, but because we turn like this with our foot, then we end up over here, and then we fold. And then we lift up and we would kick, and then now this comes in, and then this comes across, and then it just settles on top. You let the elbows level out, and then you open, then you flip and you're turning, so now you create that circle. Then we drop the hands to fold the elbows. We lift the knee, and then we have this kick. Then we cross behind, and then we end up in a sitting stance like this, and the hands are here. Now we usually turn before we do the hands, but if we put this hand on top, and we turn, all you have to do is fold the elbows. Fold the elbows with your left hand on the outside, and you lift your knee and you do a heel kick. So that's essentially the 3 kicks. So we did it toward the mirror. If I did them all facing this way, okay, the first movement we came from single, we went 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Lift, kick, down, reset. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Without the turn, 1, 2, 3. And then we're ready for brush knee, right side. So, yeah, so Steve, right away, you know how we do this? 1, 2, 3, and then go to this side. So you do your kick, then you go to this side. So that's what you have to identify with, because when you get to a new point in the form, you think you're learning something completely new, but it's actually a setup that you already kind of learned, earlier.
Heel kick.
Yeah.
Do you come back to this position before doing the
So if you were practicing this as one unit, you would go back to neutral. So you would be here, turn, brush knee and push. Brush knee and push. But because we're linking the form together, it seems like, it's better to go through your center to create the position, because after you kick, then you have to pull back here and then turn to here. So that's the setup. If you were doing the kick and you're going 1, 2, 3, then to add a level of continuity, you would have to do something below and something above. So if you did this and you kicked, then when you come down, because the body is starting to generate a motion, you have to fill that little bit of a void. So that's when the hands would appear to not pass through just here. Because this is kind of broken down. It's really the block movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But when you kick, you have to be prepared for the next action. So if you were kicking someone, you're not going to kick that person and go do this or do this, because you're exposed here. So the logic behind that is that after you kick, your hand should come to a position of defense. You have to be in a defensive mode. So my hand is here. That's the natural thing to do, to make sure that you're not open. Because I did this is my defense. And what happens is, after you kick, someone might block and counterattack. So if your hands are here, you're not going to back off. You're going to sink your elbow and relax the shoulder. So there's where your defensive move is. So there's a series of motion that leads you into a technique that allows you to have a sequence of events. It becomes something that your body starts to recognize. So when you're here, your movement is this. This is your strum the lute position, which is also 2 center line blocks. So when you kick and you do this, that is actually exchange of right and left to a brush knee. So you see how this works is if I go like this, camouflage within the movement is this. I'll use Eddie because, so he's over here. So if his hand's extended, if I go like this, there's my brush knee. You see what I did? If I went like this, I can't do the brush knee yet. So if I'm here, if I go like this, I can actually do this or do this. 1, 2, 3. You see? So those 3 things become one action as a technique. And that came off of this, right? So if I'm here, say I kick like this and he punched again, then this hand would do this. And then if I wanted, I could come to this side and do that. So that's why you're covering this space. That's why it doesn't go above your nose or eyes. It's still in your center gate. So the exchange between the two is moving right to left, right? So if I move right, okay, I'm like this. If I move left, I'm like this. If I move back, it's like this. So the hands, when they move, it's not rigid because there's a draping type of thing where if I'm here, right, regardless of which side it is, doesn't matter if it's here or here, my hand has to eventually turn to horizontal and then it turns to vertical and it turns to here. So you don't do this and leave your elbow out like this, even though you would say, well, that's a block. It's a block, but when he lifts, now I feel I'm in a strong position, but I'm in a position that I can't relax and pull. See, so I'm here deflecting, so there's no longer a point for him to lift my arm because I'm here. If I did this, then I have a pull, which is this. You see, so a lot of it has to tie to sensitivity of your position, that you actually will go through the paces of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now when I go 1, 2, 3, 4, the reason why I go 1, 2, 3, this, now I'm like this. 1, 2. See, this is that. Or this. See? See, when my hand goes like this, there's that exchange between the two. So the hands go 1, 2, 3, 4 as a timing mechanism. Because what you're actually doing is when he throws a punch, you're doing this. See? So the hands go like this. So that's the synchronization and the timing between this, 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 and this.
Could you show us from the kick facing that way? I'm just not sure how many of these happen before you get into the position to do brush knee.
Okay, so if you did the kick, 1, after the kick, I come here. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're practicing in a continuous motion, but typically in a form, you would, after the kick, you would go to neutral, bring it to here, bring it to here, and here. So, every time you sort of combine 2 movements or 2 motions, then you're going to cut down the number of positions that you've done sort of isolated independently. So after the kick, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It took me 6 motions to get to that point. If after the kick, I went like this and like this, that's 2 motions. And then third and fourth. So if you're blending the movements and you're kicking 1, 2, 3, 4, I added a motion, but yet it was more efficient in the sense that I went like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we have to realize is this position as 2 of the geometric shapes that we have muscle memoried. Because we know this, because we know this, because we know this, and because we know this, the hands just go to those, through those positions as a blend. Now, the next phase of that, after you can go from here as a blending, then you begin to combine and separate and build that continuity. So when the hands go like this, it's 1. By the time this goes to hit, this one is heading down, this is heading out, and that's going forward. And that's the sequential side of what has to happen. When you intercept, the hand has to be moving already down. So this goes down, and this goes up, and this goes out. So you already preset all the actions for each part of the motion. Because when I turned, I deflected, this actually became this. This and that become the give and take and the relationship in the 2 sides. Because when we talk about relation of right and left, up and down, then the hands have to be doing that. Because it separates from here. But in motion, because we learn the pattern of movement that has to be consistent, you're turning the body and your spine is the sort of the axle in which you rotate. Yeah. So that's what you see when you're doing Tai Chi in a fluid motion, and that's what you might see when someone's going through the form and looks so smooth and graceful in the park, is really they've already integrated it. But that does take, time and practice to get to that stage of understanding. But it's really your body recognizes how to create these actions, to create that.
It just seems like you have so many more movements when you're working with Eddie than after the kick just coming and preparing for kicks. Do you get?
Yeah, so
It just seems like so many
1,
movements.
2, 3. Well, because when I go like this, 1, 2, 3, when this hand goes out, it's actually still coming across. So depending on, all those are vertical elbows and horizontal elbows, but depending on how many times you want to do that into technique. So technique is adapting. You have to, there's a certain amount of, adaptability in a sense that every situation is different. But in form, it's already preset. You're like this, you kicked, you came to here, and you came to here. And it depends on the timing between the phases of this, this, and this, 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 and this, depending on how you want to integrate. If I use the principle of elbows and knees, and I turn, and the turn, so I sink my elbow, I sink my knee. When the hand goes down, I sink, and I turn, and I go back. 1, 2. My hand goes up, I sink my elbow, I sink my knee, I rise, I sink, I turn, and I push. All of these components become part of what's going to go on as the relationship to the right, left, and your upper body. So it's much more complicated than, when you're first learning it, because the body now has to know each motion that it's sort of programmed into your system over time. So this knows this knows this, and this knows how to do this. So they're all working independently. That's what we do when we multitask. When we multitask, we can do numerous things simultaneously because we've already programmed it. It's like signing your name. You can sign your name and still hold something. You might not be able to sign your name and then do it on this side, but you can sign your name and then do something not as complicated, but you can do this. You can even maybe eat something when you're signing it, if but that's because it's already ingrained in the subconscious and we don't have to really think about it. So that's what reflex action is. It becomes subconscious behavior based on something you've learned over time. So, as confusing as that may be, that's how we learn, and that's sort of a goal, that when we do this, I just broke this down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3. Right? So now we're on the other side. But as you evolve, when you're here, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So you can see that because I'm here, this and this and this and this and this and this and this become the combining of those pieces till it blends, and then you want a fluidity of motion. Then you just kind of flow through the motion, but still have a pattern that's what you've been developing. So muscle memory, right? Muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory. Those are all positions, joint angle positions. So those positions the body has to know them before you can execute from here to here to here. When it turns, then you bring in, there's so many things that we can go all over. But when you bring the hands in, how you articulate the hands and how you're moving your fingers creates actions that you're developing here. So if I did it like this, now at every point you can actually create an action that has a different definition of what you're doing. So when you're here and here, this is folding, but then you can separate like that. Separate softly and then come up with more lift, with more folding, with more this type of thing. So that all comes from a kind of action, So this is flipping. While we're rolling the ball like this and we turn, we're not just, in the form we're learning as a motion, but when you're like this, when you turn, turn, those become actions in the body that create. So you have to recruit different types of, muscular forces or muscle fibers to create a fast twitch, slow twitch. The action can be much more defined and intense. So when we're here, 1, 2, 3, that's actually a movement that you've already learned from diagonal flying. So that's when you release the strength. So this is what we develop as body control over time, to develop what the body is being used for. That's functionality. So, but first you have to get the structure and then the way the movements are created. This becomes this. So while we're looking at reversing the big ball like this, when you go like this or you go like this, that's actually reversing the ball even within your hand. Right? When you go like this and you turn, what are you doing? Grabbing, you're pulling. Those are two different directions, right? If I go like this, and I go like this or like this, that's pulling. Like this or like this, or like this, directions. So it's either right, left, down, or up. So those are things that we talk about sometimes in Tai Chi: forward, back, right, left, center. So it just gives you an idea that body mechanics is something that we use in motion, but it's also for functionality. You say, well, when am I ever going to be doing that? Well, you hold a saucepan, you hold it like this, you want to turn it over and pour, you turn, lift, How else do you do that? When we go like this, turn, and something as simple as shaking salt on your food, or turning it over, pouring, lifting. We're doing this all the time, reversing the ball, stirring, churning, right? Pushing, wringing a towel, washing your hands, right? Washing your hands, right? Separating, kneading, if you're making pastries, breaking an egg, you separate the egg. That's so there isn't anything that we do that. What? That's so I was doing that before I did Tai Chi. No, anyways, that's functionality. We learn to use our bodies a certain way, and anyways. So let's do the kicks, the series. I don't know if we have time to do the form, but let's go through the 7 kicks, all right? 1, and let's do all toward the front mirror, including beat the tiger, all right? So we're here, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Here's your first kick, elbows up, front kick, toe, cross, open, flip, fold, turn, lift, kick. And then we're going to place it down on top, fold the elbows, heel kick, and then we're back to center. We're going to go to right side, right brush knee, left brush knee, okay, and then we're going to actually go up, right? After we did the brush knee, we would do a planting punch, and then after planting punch, we do parry and punch, so we step up. So we're in the right foot. Now after parry and punch, we step up and we're in position 1, and we repeat the first series of hand movements, and this time we lift to the corner, we open the hip to here, and we snake the foot in here and go to neutral. Then we open the stance, and we're in the corner now, and we do this. Okay, so I'm here. This, and we go to the corner. This beat the tiger, right? Open, stroke down, turn, and face the back corner. And here's Jade Lady Work Shuttle, but it's really beat the tiger. Same position. Then we turn to the front, and we lower the hands. Now we're in a lower hoop. We cross the forearms, level the elbows, right heel kick, and right heel kick, both hands are out like this. 2 punches to the ear. Put your left hand on top, flip it over, toe out, fold, turn your body, lift. Now you turn your body, you turn your hips. You lift your elbows and you pan out like this. Then we cross over, leave the hands where they are, till you turn over the hand, and then you reverse the ball, fold. Now we're facing the front, and then stroke out, parry and punch. So we were just to practice the That's your crescent kick. That's your crescent kick. This is your crescent kick. Lift up and open the hips. Lift up, open the hips. Open the hips. Yeah. And if we didn't step, we can actually just do this. Open, 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 open. If we're reversing, we would turn here and then open. Open. Now we want our hand to go with it. Go with it. And that's something. If you don't, you could go high, you can just actually just open like this. So all you're doing is making a circle. So, there's balance there. There's circular movement. There's circular movement. Yeah. So that works a different group of muscles from what you're used to. But that's what you have to do, is create the dimension of movement. It's circular. So your hips are like your shoulders. We're doing this. We're doing this. And we have to actually turn the body a little bit. Then the body actually starts to recognize. And your spine has to be as straight as possible. And you're turning with the spine as straight as possible. So that's, tracking your motion. So everything is trying to, perfect your movement through accuracy. And, nothing is more accurate than using your body as a reference and the geometry of position. Circles, triangles, squares, and the rest is really directional. So the directions are slanting, diagonal, plane of movement, 0, 45. So while we have joint angle positions, those angular positions are then transferred to the ground like a compass, and then you have a direction, east, west, north, south, and so forth into the corners. So those are what we're describing by turning the feet, right? So this is actually something I teach in the Parkinson's class, because a lot of people have trouble sometimes turning in a direction because they lose perspective. But the simplest way to do it is to think of holding the ball and steering in a direction. We steer in a direction. Our feet are like the tires, the hands are like the steering wheel, and you turn. If you turn in this direction, you steer your feet, and you turn in this direction, you steer your feet. But when you steer your feet, you pivot. And then you go to the toe, and then you go to the heel-toe relationship. And if you do that, that's part of our footwork. We turn in a direction, and we turn in a direction. So if the body is somewhat connected, then you're going to go in the correct direction. But what ends up happening is, if your body gets tense and a little bit, stiff, then everything is separate. So you can't move your feet and move. So if you kind of keep that idea as a consciousness, then when you turn, you're going to head in that direction. So the same thing happens when we open the form. We start off, we go to neutral, we go forward, And then we turn and we kick the heel out, but we're turning in a direction. It's 45 degrees to the corner. Now we're still looking in the corner, and we steer toward that direction by this time engaging this hand, and then this foot, and then we're here. So that's what right and left is. Right and left takes you into a direction. So when we move right, we move left. We move right, then we move left. We move right, actually right, left, right, forward. That's where the rotation comes from. That's where the integration of that is. So when you're doing the form, you should always be aware that your body has to turn. And when it turns, something has to happen in the feet. And when you turn, something has to happen above. So that relationship will build, and then you become an integrated being. You actually, you go through this morphing stage, and you really are different from when you first started. So, okay, we'll bow. Ready? Hup.